Okay, guys, we are back. The time has come for Great Ace Attorney 2. We are wrapping up the third trial now. It's been very, very interesting. I feel like I might need a little refresher on what we did last week. Van Zeeks has his assistant with him, which basically the game revealed that it is, in fact, Kazuma, like I called. What were our breakthroughs last week? We called out that, Oh, we called out the forensics team lady and said that she was an accomplice. And she's a close confidant of Strongheart, which means that, like, there is high-level corruption going on. And that there's gonna be some messiness to answer for. I don't remember where exactly we left off. Right, we pressed Madame to spells, right? Hey, Booty. Happy Saturday. How you doing? The special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork recreates that decade-old scene in great detail. Condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon terrifying sight. Right. So... Okay. We learned that this serial killer wasn't actually killed at his execution and later tried to come out of his grave and was shot by somebody, and that's how he died. That's also significant to the case for reasons. Saturday, we finally have a Saturday where we aren't doing things. Beer night, how are we doing? Doing great, Booty. It's our triple feature day, so we did Persona 3, and now we've got 3 hours of this game, and then we'll be doing community night tonight. Will we be expecting you for some Among Us games? Oh, yeah! Alright, awesome. I'm probably gonna start to do a little, like, pre-gaming for it, maybe around 6 or so. I have, like, a splash of coffee that I had left over, so I mix it into my cup. But I digress. Okay. Order! Surely not, Council. Drebber was there, in Lowgate Cemetery. What is all this talk about, Mr. Drebber? Is the name significant? Of course, Madame Tuspels doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, Madame. To your situation as well, in fact. What situation? The theft of the Professor Waxwork from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man. No. But that would mean... Madame Tuspels. It would appear you know the name, Enoch Drebber. Oui. Yes, I know it. But from long ago in the past. What? Oh my. Good gracious! Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know. Yes, of course. The story of the young man and the terrible sight he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, in all of the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed. That is, apart from in one newspaper. The Daily Circus. It is the paper from which comes the article I have already shown the court. You're saying that his full name was only publicized in that article? It's me, yes, here it is. The university student who experienced this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Drebber, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of its student dorms. Unbelievable. When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night would make a perfect exhibit for my horror house. House of Horrors, even. Whether it was the truth or not. I see. So you went to meet Mr. Drebber in order to sculpt a waxwork of the man, did you? Exactement. He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork, and since that time it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of terror from the cemetery. So, 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death, re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote that was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would the man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into the Crystal Tower. If the birdcage had in fact contained not the body of Mr. Asmund, but the same waxwork, the coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated Dr. Scythe would have noticed immediately. And yet, she submitted this autopsy report for the victim, which the court has seen earlier. Why? Because the waxwork was that of the professor. Is that what you're saying? Dr. Scythe put her name to a document confirming the death of the condemned criminal who was still alive. A criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the body double. Ugh! My lord, this court must summon Dr. Scythe to the stand. Defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. But according to the missive I received this morning through the prosecutor's office, Dr. Scythe is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case? She told us so herself, didn't she? The missive? Cue Bluebird Lamentation. Let's also summon Iris to the stand just for fun. Oh, hey, Dots. Happy Saturday. Thanks for the stream recommendation, like, for rating yesterday. It seemed like, Espero was really delighted. Lord Van Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Strongheart. Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of him. Yeah, he seems really nice. I'll have to catch one of his streams when I don't have plans. Something happened on the night of the killer's execution 10 years ago. And surely nobody would want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution calls for the instructions in that missive to be scrapped. But Lord Van Zeeks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's office.
Objection!
Not the Lord Cheese Justice. The assigned prosecutor has the final say on a policy in any particular trial. In other words, Yes. Okay, I would live if the rest of the game is us teaming up with Van Zeeks to get to the bottom of whatever the hell is happening in this game's plot. That kind of seems like that's what's going on now, because he has reason to be interested in what Dr. Scythe has to say. Let Enoch Drebber and Dr. Scythe both take the stand together. Order, order, order. Very well, I will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect, addressed to Dr. Scythe of the Forensic Investigation Team. The woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alright then. Enoch Drebber and Dr. Scythe. If they weren't colluding with one another, this crime could never have been committed. I'm just a stone's throw away, I can feel it. The truth behind all this is about to come out. Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Scythe. I'm disappointed in you, Lord Van Zeeks. You've completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office. Betrayal is not in my nature, as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt. Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Scythe, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime. And where's your evidence? At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer, known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago. You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes and officially pronounced him dead. That remains to be seen. Is that so? According to the newspaper reports from the time, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time. And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Scythe's. A secret so profound, it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact. Damn, he's not talking. Mr. Drebber, tell the court. Tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Lowgate Cemetery. So he was the student who saw it. See the resemblance, actually, can't you? With the man in Madame Tispel's, I mean. Surely he's not going to claim that that's what he really saw, especially not after all these years. He was a research student at the University of London, was he? And a bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me. What an interesting twist. When, at the time, not one person would take me seriously. Yet now here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters, and in a court of law too. Okay, good, the animations are back. Very well, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth. So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please, about the events of the night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, of course, as you wish. Here we go. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. This guy is so weird. Tom, is this your first time seeing him? His animations are incredible. Also, he is, basically responsible for the murder that we are in the court for, but there is much more going on with, like, the deep inner echelons of, like, the British government going on here with the forensics team and the Chief Justice. Like, it's getting super interesting. Wait till you see his other ones where he goes like... He did it a little bit earlier, and I'm a big fan of this character, actually. Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realize that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. That is interesting. Wait a minute, you're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course, you'd have to have a screw loose if you believe a corpse could come back from the dead. But, so, you're saying the article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly. Yes. So is he a robot? No, he's literally just a freak. If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Scythe would have been working together. Is a gay robot? Yeah, probably. So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument? Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate? That's right. Grave robbing, to be precise. As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So, among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by ghosts of condemned convicts. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead. So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge on society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name, the Repurposers. That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. it caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. C. Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article? Ah, yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done, claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish, very foolish. Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed with the cross-examination now. At once, my lord. Alright, here we go. Prepare to be pressed! The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Hold it! By moonlighting, you mean grave robbing, do you? Surely, you only need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer to that. The lantern and the spade. But who on earth would want to buy a dead body? Any major hospital. A hospital? In order to better the understanding of the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to the medical science. But there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we made surreptitious arrangements with a hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand. You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences. We students were caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research. Hey, welcome back, Mitch. Professor Harebrain said the exact same thing. I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you've revealed this abhorrent behavior. Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Lowgate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected it to end the way it did. That I regret to this day. Illustrations in that newspaper article based on what I missed that. Hold it! Strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time. You know, I was shaking like a leaf, but they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead? I started big with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to get my story. How's Ace Attorney? It's going well. We just started it maybe 30 minutes ago. This case has been super interesting. And it spread like the plague through the capital, as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale. The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets. And yet, only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories. What about the article in the Daily Circus? That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night. And the person that drew this is the person that died in this case. So, maybe this is the motive. Maybe he killed him because he resented that, he exposed his name to the public. And from your description, true this illustration. Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, see. Hey, Kuroi. Happy Saturday. Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate then? Well... Thinking back now, I realize that I never actually saw the professor at all, though. Hold it! What are you talking about? I think I explained already, didn't I? Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison, so it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night, and as a result, only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life. But you said you actually saw it. I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, you have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night. I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he did see the professor? Hey, hold on, let's think. The hair changing color, right? Yeah, his hair changing color. How do I present this, though? If we have anything at all, Mr. Naruhodo, I know, I need to present it against the irritatingly backtracking statement of his. The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. Okay. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Hold it! That young woman being Madame Tispels, of course. Precisely. I must say, I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later. As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article, and come sa, I found the man. Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said. I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. And the young lady put £5 in front of me. So you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made, and gave permission for it to be put on display. I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded. Ah, oui. I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day. Ne sais pas? Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, madame? His camera. Ah! Oh yes, I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery. Took a camera with you, sir? To what end? To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it. I see. But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. Hey, story time. Yes, the case is heating up again. We're trying to learn what the connection from the case 10 years ago is to the present, which is going to prove why the forensics science lady agreed to be an accomplice for this crack job. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Tespel's way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Mr. Drebber took with him to Logate Cemetery on the night in question. Yes, interesting. Okay, so wait. About the camera. Right, so we already read all this last week. Are we gonna use the blood? Are we gonna use the blood to explain that he did see the professor? Okay, so there's nothing new to glean from that right now, but that's definitely going to be significant. And I gave up my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of the... Hold it! Okay. This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus. Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article, and carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result. Mon Dieu, I had no idea. And having been run out of the university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. You combined your knowledge of science with knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you use those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Hairbrain was just your latest victim, wasn't he? Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort. What's Drebber up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim? I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now. What circumstances? Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from the grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Scythe's past that she would desperately want to hide. Yes, of course. If Drebber and Scythe are working together now, then if Drebber were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he did see Professor's corpse coming back from the dead, as he originally claimed. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly. Okay, so it's pretty clear to me that the one that we have to... We have to present against this. Thinking back, I realized that I never actually saw the professor at all. So, okay, I have two main thoughts about this. One is that his hair is white. He was scared by something which turned his hair white. Although the waxwork is black-haired still. Also, it says that somebody shot the guy coming out of the grave, right? So that blood splatter would have had to have gotten on his camera. I think we used the camera to prove that he saw him.
Objection.
That last statement would seem to be at odds somehow with this evidence. Nope. 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 Okay. Yes, extremely jarring. Sorry. I realized that I never actually saw the professor at all. So what do I have that can prove that he saw it? Exhibition newspaper, no. Experimental sketch, no. Crossbow, no. Piece of hot air balloon cloth, no. Photo of the victim, no. Nope, none of this is relevant. There's nothing to be done with this, right? This just, I mean, it shows his white hair here, but I highly doubt it. And the camera did not work. This has nothing to do with it. It couldn't. This seems way too. I don't think this would be it. Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter. We examine the newer evidence. I think so. This is the newest evidence. See the rest of his statements. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me in wax. I gave up my dream of becoming a scientist. All because of that news article. Wait. Doesn't he have a trophy or something? Doesn't that mean he continued to practice? The metal plaque here, fostering burgeoning talent for scientific discovery. There's no world where I use that to counter this statement, right? Because Susato already said the whole... prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead as he originally claimed. Right, so there's no way this isn't what we have to counter. I'm gonna try... This seems way too straightforward, in my opinion. Do we use the 10-year-old article to prove this?
Objection!
Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that. Don't believe what? Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that night. 10 years ago. Yeah, so they went with a super straightforward interaction there. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds, but I was there and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging with a tomb, wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in the closed court's ruling that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were there were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you actually had seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration. Ah! Wait, didn't Tuspel say that she took the mask off so that she could make the waxwork? That's kind of crazy. Order, order! Well, Mr. Drebber. It's a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified, which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards, I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. You're saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course, of course. Only too happy to oblige. I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work.
Hold it!
A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I saw actually see. Proclaiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself. Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity, wouldn't you say?
Objection.
But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them. A gravedigger had shot somebody in the cemetery? I think it might have been rather big news, my lord. Ah, yes, well, I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by the reporter.
Excuse me.
Madame Tispels, don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes. Oh la la. Pardon. I was lost in my thoughts. Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way? I thought it was a little strange, that's all. How Monsieur Drebber could claim this now. If you don't mind me saying, madame, what are you talking about? Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the gunshot. Stop. You might want to watch your tongue, no.
Objection!
Have a care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady. Grr. Please, Madame Tispels, carry on. Of course. Accordingly to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man. I said nothing of the sort. No, you were very explicit about the details. About the mask that the figure was wearing, and the blood that splattered over you when he was shot. Enough, shut up, woman. You're making all this up. That will do. Mr. Drebber. Yes. You refute the account just given by Madame Tispels? I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on, do you really expect us to believe you? Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom. Right. He's cracking for sure. Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness. Very well. Okay, now it's gonna be time for the camera. There was no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any spattering blood.
Hold it!
Yet Madame Tispels has testified that you told her about both of those details. Not true, I said nothing of the sort. 10 years have passed. Without material evidence to the contrary, you have no grounds on which to question the witness's word. Tell me, Madame Tispels. Oui. What exactly did Mr. Drebber say about the blood that apparently spattered on him? Alors, this is what he told me. All of a sudden, he heard a very loud gunshot from behind his back. The bullet hit the figure who was emerging from the tomb in the middle of the chest, in his heart. One dreadful sight after another. And since Monsieur Drebber was, at the time, facing towards the condemned man, the blood sprayed from the wound and spattered on his body. That is what he told me. So, not an experience you would ever forget, is it? Precisely, and I didn't forget it, because, as I've already said, it never happened in the first place. He's clearly lying. Only I had some evidence to prove it. We can't let him win, Mr. Naruhodo. He mustn't overlook a single detail, no matter how small. Okay. No gunshot from behind me, no spattering of blood. So now it's camera time.
Objection!
Mr. Drebber, do you know this do you remember this camera? But that is the camera from the fateful night. Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber. And is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forward on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord, are you suggesting? Yes, my lord, it would appear to be a spatter of blood. Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Scythe? It would be rather difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough. I propose that Madame Tispels' testimony was correct. And that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, And that, furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. She's too iconic to lie. I wasn't sure about her at the start of the case, Dots. I was kind of worried that she was going to be, like, in cahoots with the bad guys, but I'm glad she's just been helping the case. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose then? Who could benefit? Dr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness! He's shielding someone! Yes, my lord. And clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor's coming back to life to be exposed. Well, Counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night?
Take that!
Obvious answer is Dr. Scythe. Remember me! Scythe. Whatever do you mean? Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. Scythe? Arlecchino? Does Arlecchino use a scythe in Genshin? I heard that her kit got leaked and stuff. If it was the professor... Wait, isn't one of the bad guys in Genshin also called the professor? That would be an unprecedented scandal! The music's so good. Yeah, the music has been good all trial, I think.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened. Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape. Not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. If that were really true, Counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up. That means Strongheart is a bad guy. And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions. Okay, so wait a minute. Is it tinfoil hat time? Strongheart was using the mass murderer for his own gains, so he had everyone fake the death of the guy, but then someone killed him anyways. And when we take off the mask, that's gonna be the real gag, because I don't know what we're gonna see. It could be Strongheart, and... It could be Strongheart, but Madame Tispels would have noticed. So maybe it's a character we haven't seen yet. The plot chickens for sure. I'm gonna go make a drink and also run to the bathroom, guys. So let's take 5. I'm gonna turn on some lights too. I'll be back. Sit tight. Get some popcorn. Get some booze yourself. BRB.
Oh, thank you. セッション行きます。
Hi. Hi, Steven. Welcome back. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. I, just had to take a little bathroom break. You missed so much. Yeah, actually, did you see last Sunday's episode? Last Sunday, we got, like, into, to Spell's testimony. And here we've only been doing this for like an hour, and we're proving the connection between Drebber and Scythe. Which is gonna mean, like, the judge just said it, like, if you're accusing this of happening, you're basically saying that there is something going on behind, like, the entire judiciary system. Which would mean Strongheart, which means Strongheart is a baddie. And I was just putting on my tinfoil hat and talking about who I think we're gonna see when we remove the helmet from the wax doll. It could really be any number of people, or maybe even a character that we don't know yet. But I'm definitely seeing Strongheart as the puppet master here. Oh god, I have a lot of half ideas. That's the best way I would put it. Strongheart, Professor Mikotoba, for some reason, I don't know why.
Delightful.
Van Zeke's brother. It's the mustache, it makes him look evil. Oh, Mikotoba? Yes! I don't trust him because of the whole weirdness with, like, making Susato go home. And him being close with Strongheart, who I now am, like, pretty certain is a bad guy. I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Alright. It's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Scythe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if that meant becoming complicit in a crime. Ding! Seek a way out. You mean that Dr. Scythe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Ugh. Okay, he's Lord Van Zeeks! You made some good progress in P3. Oh, I was saying, I think I have 2 more streams of it. I'm 90 hours in.
Kiss my feet. I will step on you.
I love when he does this. Dude, Van Zeeks. Yes, I need this in my life. Queen Renala. Oh no. There's like a big online uni tournament going on right now, right? Storytime? You too, Steven. I just saw that Royal Heart beat Masoma to get top 8, like I saw a tweet.
Yes.
Amazing. Pray forgive my freshly filled hallowed chalice, and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chests... I'm around Christmas in PA now. Oh, shit. Yeah, you're catching up, Steven. I think I ended today at 1-9. And I'm despaired at the number of school days left, because there is no way I will finish all the social links. Who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Well, I have no idea at the moment. We'll see. I'll put Mitsuru on charm proof, just for that exact reason. We have too little information to work that out at the present, I think. I couldn't agree more. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose. And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits. Okay. An idea just shot into my head. It was evoked, sorry. Okay. Body double. Mask. Close trial. They covered up his identity because the person that they didn't execute was somebody that wasn't the professor. And they were then buried, they tried to escape, and they were shot. Probably by the real professor. That's what's going on. I don't know if it even matters who the person in the mask / the professor is. The real professor is probably still at large and is probably like Strongheart or something. Yet, yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no? There is the contract, that's very true. The motive for this case runs deep, though. Feel it. Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place. If the research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would have made no sense anyway. Which means, Mr. Drebber's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman. But why? What was his motive? Time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your hearty proposal, shall we? He just... didn't throw it into Kazuma. How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country? At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright, who exactly was Mr. Asman to Drebber? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet. And I'm going to have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. Yes, my lord. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. Yeah, and this is 2 evidence, so I feel like my odds of turning in the right combination are very slim. Okay, this definitely no. So we need to prove the motive. That's what we're doing with this evidence. Fund labor and material. The construction of a super high voltage continuous machine. Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations from government grants or other income. Dr. Drebber may only uphold this right on condition that contracting parties are aligned. So I think that this is one of the pieces of evidence because it has Asman's name on it. And I think that Drebber wanted him dead because he's the one that publicized Drebber's name. So that's one, but what's the other? Could it be this? I feel like that's just gonna be irrelevant. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. Hmm. Alright, I'm going out on a limb. It's this newspaper article, my lord. That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? That drivel should never have been written. It's a typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will become... Oh, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asmund dead. What other evidence? Shit. Shit. Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. Oh god. The evidence which, when cross-referenced with the newspaper article, establishes a motive for the deed. Is it this? This doesn't prove that at all, though. This says that if he dies, he doesn't get any money. If Asmund dies, Drebber doesn't get money. It couldn't possibly be this, could it? I don't know why the trophy is sticking out to me, too. The trophy shouldn't have anything to do with Asmund, because he wasn't even a scientist, right? I think I'm gonna say Waxwork Head.
Take that!
It's fair to say that after your presentation of evidence, counsel, we have only half the story. Right, my lord. That's why I just presented another piece of evidence to complete it. Yeah! Okay. Yeah. Talk your shit. I'm sorry. Wait, I see it now. Wait, I'm still... Oh my god. Stop! Let me choose again! Oh god. Okay, your argument clearly does not stand with the second evidence, which remains elusive. Yes, sorry, my lord. The evidence I need to supplement the article. I know it's right in front of my eyes. I'm just gonna YOLO the trophy.
Take that!
Ah! Alright, well. He ruined his education because his name got out in the paper. Yeah. Let me try again, thank you. I'm overthinking it. I don't, honestly, looking through my evidence, I'm just like, nothing...
Guilty!
Nothing?
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
Maybe it's the camera.
Kill me!
Maybe it's the camera. Yeah. Let me retry, thank you. Guilty! Guilty! I know, the corn girl is just the way right from the scene. Alright. Who exactly was Mr. Asmund Drebber? Yeah, she is too young for the jury. Like, what? Also, why is she bringing that corn in the court? Alright. Let's just present 10-year-old article.
Take that!
Some quality of life you didn't know? Are you saying you never ran out of your points story time, so you never had to? Are you just the Ace Attorney god? I'm gonna do the camera next.
Take that!
Nope! Damn it! How? Oh. I think this is something you've noticed and are assuming is obvious but hasn't been discussed in-game. Really? So we tried these three, and none of them were the T. More like Pangy Ace Defective. Diamonds. This is common in Ace
So you are
Attorney.
afraid of me.
Oftentimes people may figure certain things out, but the game wants you to sort of solve it step by step. Okay. Is it the autopsy report? I don't see how any of my remaining evidence works with the article to prove the motive. Like, clearly he wanted to kill the guy because he put his name in a newspaper, which then caused this whole shitstorm. But none of my evidence really supports that. What connects the newspaper article back to Asmund? I mean, I thought the camera, maybe. Maybe not. I mean, it's his illustration. Why don't you establish that that Asmund drew the illustration? I mean, it literally has his signature on it. So they want me to say this? Because it has his signature on it? That's such a stretch.
Take that!
It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asmund. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. The whole 4 step-by-step thing is why I stopped playing AA myself, but I guess at least GAA does a better job of framing it. Phoenix Wright, just presenting the judges as the stupid person. Some of these presentations can be frustrating because the logic is so, like, what? Like, what we just did doesn't make sense to me. You have to prove that it belonged to the same person. I mean, it looks exactly the same. Really? And it's the common link. That shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Asmund. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these 2 pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contracts?
Take that!
What these 2 pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. A signature? The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about this ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asmund's signature at the bottom. Let me see now. Good lord, yes, they're identical! In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odie Asmund. Well.
Objection!
But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asmund? Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. When it comes to these games, I'm willing to put down my notion of what makes sense and just go with the flow, because if you fight too hard, you just don't have fun with it. Yeah, I'm with you, Storytime. For the most part, what they want you to present is you're able to figure it out, but there are definitely some, like, failed logic puzzles here that when I get to them, I'm just like, ugh, eye roll. That is quite beyond the pale. Oh, right. We already read this. Suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I gave up on my dream to become a scientist. It was all because of that newspaper article. At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However... Yeah, and I'm not saying I am rolling my eyes at everything, but there are definitely sequences that just don't... They did a poor job of making it easy for the player to figure out what they're getting at. In my opinion. And, like, I've also read Danganronpa for doing the same thing, and I love Danganronpa, so... Just a comment. This single newspaper article changed your entire life. So Mr. Asmin used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? Did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asmin managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network. Oh, I see, I see. I enjoy anime tropes as much as anyone, but there's definitely such a thing as going too far. Oh, Kuroi, are you not about the, like, over-the-top characters in this game? I am also not usually a big fan, but I feel like it's grown on me a bit in Great Ace Attorney 2. Great Ace Attorney 1, I was kind of exhausted by most of the characters that we met. People like Gina and, the I Am a Cat guy, they exhaust me to the point where I'm like, ugh. But there are other characters that are definitely over the top, like Van Zeeks, that I really adore, and Sholmes, and even, like, I really like, the culprit in this case. I think he's really fun. Thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article, written by Mr. Asmin. Yeah. For the most part, I'm fine with over the top, but there are a few witnesses here that screw it up, and I'm usually good with those. Oh, okay. Yeah, most of the witnesses are fine. And honestly, I'll be real. Part of the reason I don't like Gina is because reading her lines out loud majorly threw me for a loop and tongue-twisted me in GAA1. You love the characters that don't bring corn to a jury? Ugh, she's insufferable. I think the one that annoyed me the most was the Phoenix Wright judge being so completely this 100% of the time. Yeah. I think for characters like the judge, you just have to, like, suspend your disbelief and be like, okay, this is just... I guess this is what makes it a video game. They can't actually, like... They have to be babied along so that the player has someone to explain everything to. Maybe if you didn't give her a hick accent. Yeah, but story time, I would be giving everybody a British accent. And, honestly, I can't do a British accent very well, so that's just never gonna happen in the first place. The mainline AA judge is so stupid, he's unbelievable for sure, but I still kind of love him. By assault, I really mean assault. They bring weapons in and attack him. Yeah, it's the classic. It's the classic. You have to explain things step by step because it's a game and prove your logic. So I think the parts that have tripped me up where I'm like, what the hell is the game getting at? Sometimes the answer is like, well, we're just explaining it dumbed down so that the game knows that the player's paying attention, but at the same time, some of the connections are just like, how are you getting that? Okay, well, in any case, they've caught up with what I said like 30 minutes ago, which is wonderful. Yeah, you're right, Dots. This signature thing was almost like a no-brainer, so looking back on your little hint that like, oh, maybe it's something that you noticed but the characters haven't, I'm like, wait. Now I have to think about what exactly has been discussed and unearthed. I feel like the GAA judge is just like, you have evidence? Well, present it. And I'm like, okay. And then when you prove him right, he's like, good gracious! That's like his response to like 95% of the things that happen. Which is fine. I'm cool with that. Enough. Stop this endless drivel about my life. Yeah. I picked up on that. That, the Phoenix Wright games don't have the jury. I'm like 50-50 on the jury as a mechanic. I feel like a lot of the time where you have to like convince the jury members, it gets a little bit like repeat information. Sometimes new things get unearthed when you have to like do the summation examinations, but in general, I feel like I wouldn't have too much of a complaint if the jury just wasn't in the picture and it was all just cross-examinations and talking with the prosecutor. You know what it really is? The trials just are so long that I'm like, oof, this doesn't feel necessary, and this could have been more concise without this. But, I mean, they took a chance on it, and I'm assuming the jury is not in any other game, right? So maybe by the end of this, they just were like, maybe we shouldn't go forward with it. Flirting with the prosecutor? You like the jury just because the characters are colorful and silly? Yes. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber. Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research, but they struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or other after all. Good gracious! Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Lowgate was the best thing that could have happened to me. Wrong! We have the trophy! Mr. Drebber, we're finally gonna use the trophy! Do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? And I have evidence to prove it! The fucking trophy! How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead. Show it. What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave the university because I lacked talent?
Take that!
Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. God, his ass, don't lie about your talents to me. Yeah, we saw your trophy in your lab, sir. Good gracious! Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. The truth is... finally, he's going to fold. I knew it. Dr. Scythe. Fine. Clearly this has run its course now. What? I admit it. All of it. What? What are you doing? Wrong voice. It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. No. Ooh! Okay, wait. What does Van Zeeks know? Dr. Scythe! Okay, I need to know who is in this. We have to find out. I need this tea to be spilled. Do you realize what you are saying, woman?
It's tea time!
It's all true. Hopefully it'll spill before Among Us. That day. We have an hour and 15 minutes. I think we got this, maybe. When I arrived at the Crystal Tower and I saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago, that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Scythe, you will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago. All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously pointed or written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene, and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Why on earth would you buckle now? Well, there's no point trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished. So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything. Surely it goes without saying, admit your part in it too, then. I admit nothing at all? What? Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove that I did anything wrong. No! Order, order, order! Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Van Zeeks. Yes? I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course. I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain. Very true. It had slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends? As the court has heard, Dr. Scythe has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. You mean... At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? Oh shit, are we tabling the professor case? None, my lord. Congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. You've proven Professor Harebrain's innocence. Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss. I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Scythe suddenly admit to it like that? Is everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is... testimony.
Objection!
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. I beg your pardon! We demand one final testimony. What? You do realize I'm about to adjudicate in favor of your client, I presume? What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that. Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking? The truth, the whole truth, and a way to bring it all out into the open. I mean, Harebrain threw himself under the bus in the first part of the trial. Maybe we should. Thoughts? I'm gonna be honest. Right. Yes. In hindsight. Word of warning before I go. In the course of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth. Don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. He needs help. Yeah, right. He doesn't need our help. He just does it. Bitter end, you understand. Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Know him? Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client. Sholmes does know too much. It's very interesting. And to secure an acquittal. Sholmes is my goat. Hi, Ray. Yeah, Sholmes is a great character. I am so unbelievably invested in this case now. I need to know. And I'm pretty sure the rest of this game is just gonna keep up with this built-up tense plot. I need to know what's happening. Can't reveal his Bankai, it's not time. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Scythe. Testimony from me. About what? About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber. Ah, in case it's escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. The whole truth has already been revealed. Stop wasting everyone's time. Ah. Yes, I heard that, Ray, that he's actually just Sherlock Holmes. I think it's funny and so on brand for Ace Attorney to just shift it to Herlock Sholmes in the English version. So how come they didn't get in trouble for the Japanese version, but they got in trouble for English? As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination. Pray forgive my careless handling of that hollowed bottle. I slipped. That's what you call it? What is your objection, Lord Van Zeeks? Prosecution. I know, he wastes so much wine, but he's such an icon, I don't care. He's so fucking extra. Earlier in the case, Ray, he just lifted his, like, he was so pissed, he lifted up his leg and just boom! I love him so much.
Kiss my feet. I will step on you.
Phil would be upset. Well, yeah, I'm assuming so. But I'm just saying, I really like that pose. And him in general, he's just a great character. Yeah, the Phoenix Wright prosecutor is that woman, right? With the blue hair that looks like cigarette? Oh, she's one of them. So it's not like this game. It's a different one for each game. Oh, okay. Okay. This game has just been Van Zeeks and that weird,
yes,
Japanese guy. Hey, Trash, happy Saturday. You gonna play some Among Us with us tonight? The most famous one in the series is Edgeworth. Edgeworth is... He's a guy, right? Maybe? He's in the red suit. Yes, okay, yep. With the, like, greenish gray hair. The napkin. He's the boyfriend. Oh. I know the one. Yeah. The thing. Yeah. I have one of those for my pirate costume. I also forget what they're called. Cravat. Cravat? Not the crevice. Steven's having a Steven moment. Lemonade. Don't be stupid.
I want this to end.
I'm not weird, okay? If there is more to this case than has yet come to light,
I'm scared.
then I will join my learned Nipponese. Ooh, he didn't say it this time. My learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end. You'll what? Lord Van Zeeks. Yes, we're teaming up. This is the most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Scythe, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Dr. Drebber. Very well. This is gonna be juicy. Okay, guys. We're getting really... I can smell the tea. Okay? This is what I need to know. It's
tea time!
This is the Ushikochi masked character gag reveal moment, and I need it. Waxwork plot. Better be Susato. I don't know what I would do. It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it. Oh, nicely done with clipping. Frozen. Thank you. So I was right. The stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception. Oh, no, Steven. We never trust Rosenlock. Always betray. So it seems, and all meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. My color wheel.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's it. I'm going through the, What was that weird-ass color that Fi always said? It wasn't like periwinkle. No, not magenta. Cyan! Yes, she was obsessed with saying cyan. You'd play the AB game like Alice? Oh, you mean, spoilers. Rosen! Whoosh. So it seems, and all meticulously prepared, you did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy. So kind of you to say. And what about this autopsy report then? All I did was record the location of the body as being seen in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all. That's a terrible corruption. Only my team were aware of the deceit. And then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you. We must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for cross-examination, I would say. No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Scythe's face. It's the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following testimony. What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent? Very well, if you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Can you fix her? Do I understand? Alright, it all began at the scene when I was... Oh, I saw the waxwork and the note type of jacket. From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea who was behind it? There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer. So no, I had no idea. Yet despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it. I had no choice. Protecting the professor's... the professor's secret was my only concern. Pause! Happy Saturday, it's good to see you. The horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will immeasurably damaged as a result of all this. Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm well aware of that. So as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where then was the victim's body? The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then? It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim and the waxwork. You switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower. The waxwork? I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the time. And why were you given such directions? Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame Tispel's. I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage. Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still. I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant. It was my job. When you say arranged, I presume you mean with this. Yes, the instructions in the engineer's notes said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Asmund. So, you mean that was your doing? I fetched Hairbrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me alone to the abyss under the stage, where the birdcage had fallen. Alone, Doctor? I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. Oh, so did she kill him? There was a void under the stage, where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands. I love the deep voice that I gave her. Thank you, Trash. I often wonder if the variations in voices that I give characters is only in my head, and it all just sounds like me talking, so thank you for reinforcing me. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report, as a fictitious cause of death. Exactly. He's just chilling over here. So, the actual cause of death was the trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop. My word. What is it, Miss Susato? Something about Dr. Scythe's last statement. Ah! Oh. Did she kill him? It's playing on my mind, that's all. Yes, mine too. Dr. Scythe? There's really no need to shout. I hear you perfectly well. The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony. Oh. Which part? What I want her to supplement her testimony with is real cause of death. Real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet. That part. Fine. That's what you want. Stop yelling, please. Prosecution concurs. Very well, you will supplement your testimony now, witness! If you wish, my lord. The actual cause of death was neck trauma Asmund suffered from a 30-foot fall.
Hold it!
You're quite sure of that? It was the result of a broken neck. Yes, as a professional, that was more than apparent. You'd never know just by looking at the photograph of the victim, though, would you? No, that's very true. Obviously not. Which is precisely why coroners are needed to determine the actual facts. Yes, assuming they can be trusted. Got her ass. There's no point calling her assessment into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony. Very well. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The entire team in perverting the course of justice? My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. We operate on a code of chivalry of sorts. You aid and abet a murder, commit perjury, and dare talk of chivalry? It was a matter of priorities. What? Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. My team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. I consider their conduct exemplary. Ugh. Don't concede the point, Mr. Naruhodo. You mustn't let her win. Need a lawyer. I'll take that silence as tacit acceptance. Now, can we move on? The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it. But at what cost? Faith in Scotland Yard is going to suffer a terrible blow as a result of this. And your precious secret is out now anyway. Yes, as you say. So, okay, no, I don't think so. That's not it. That's not the whole truth. She did lie in the autopsy report from 10 years ago, but we don't know why. That's the secret. That hasn't been uncovered. Van Zeeks, you're literally throwing. And I take full responsibility. Blow me down. Dr. Scythe! Surely there was some other way you could have protected the secret. No, there really wasn't. I've done my utmost, believe me. In many ways, I respect your determination. Ooh. I nearly froze under that cold stare as she said that. I do believe she was being genuine though, Mr. Naruhodo. So that's her story. She's admitted everything and revealed her full involvement in the crime. I do wonder if there could really be much more to it. Well, I don't know. But I just have a feeling. Do you, Mr. Naruhodo? The truth is, I find it strange too. How those two are reacting to this in completely opposite ways, I mean. Yes, exactly. For some reason, I feel sure they're still trying to hide something. Okay. So, obviously, the cause of death was neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. So now we need to prove that that's wrong. Do we use the... I'm not a forensics expert. What would it look like if somebody had a broken neck? I'm assuming they'd be dangling and not just upright like this, you know? So this immediately I am under suspicion of. A broken vertebra. Let's look up the definition of vertebra. Each of the series of small bones forming the backbone. But we've already discredited this report, right? Is that phrase significant? I think it is. Neck trauma is not the same as back trauma. Okay, we're going with it.
Objection!
I'm wrong. I'm wrong!
Objection!
I'm wrong again! Alright, well, there goes my two ideas. Okay, I just had a wild thought. I think I might be tinfoiling a little bit too hard. So, the story is...
Objection.
Shit, I didn't mean to press that! No! Okay. What if this is the corpse of the guy that got shot? That's impossible, right? What if that's a gun... No, it couldn't possibly be a gunshot wound. Right? Because the other guy got shot by a gun in his heart. But there's no way a 10-year-old corpse would have fresh blood on it. And it wouldn't look like him. Right? I mean, it would, like, decompose. Unless if she was preserving it. The bullet pierced the resurrected man in the chest.
Objection.
I'm wrong. Yeah, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Redo, sorry! Thank you, counsel, that will do. No further analysis is necessary, I feel, as such. I'm requesting the final decisions of the juries. Wait.
Guilty.
They changed to guilty!
Guilty.
That has to be maybe the most
Guilty!
Kill me.
non-logical thing. I understand it's because it's a video game and they have to make you game over somehow, but that is hilarious. That is in the same light as every Danganronpa trial where, like, you fail to, like, say something and then they're like, well, I guess it was MC. Okay. Oh, jeez.
Hold it.
Okay. So what's interesting about this is this is a statement that gets added, which in every other cross-examination, when a statement is added, that's the one that you have to refute. Am I not supposed to be proving this? Okay. I mean, they're very clearly hinting. Right. Wait. What if it's what she did to the victim instead? How you stabbed Mr. Asman in the chest. That part. So they, wait. They... Wait... They let you do both? So wait, this is gonna be a different statement. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest.
Hold it!
So it was you who stabbed Asman with this. Yes, far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required. What a welcome change. Victim died instantly from a snapped neck. All I did was carry out the instructions I'd been given. As unflinchingly as ever, no doubt. I imagine you didn't bat an eyelid when you drove the weapon into his body. There was no need to bat my eyelids. And what else did you do to twist the facts? Remind the court, why don't you? If you wish. Stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the driver into the chest. Can I disprove that? You know, one sentence about this is kind of... It has a very distinctive handle. Can I use this against her?
Objection!
No. Nope. Cannot. So... Sit over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunge the screwdriver into the chest. So, the problem here is, I don't know which of the two... like, there's two separate statements that you can choose to make her say, and... I sit over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. See, the photo of the victim doesn't refute that. Well, you can clearly see the wound. Nothing else about this seems... Nothing else seems to counteract that.
Objection.
Nope. Nope. That...
Hold it!
I got the engineer's instructions, in his words. Fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone killed Asmin. Leaned down over the birdcage and opened it up. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. After that, it was simply a matter of reporting the stab wound as the cause of death in the autopsy report. The real cause of death being the fall of... If you think it would be appropriate, or you could ask Dr. Scythe to change the supplementary testimony he gave. I feel like I know... Well, maybe not. I feel like the real cause of death is what we need to be refuting. Also, I'm gonna do a think on it, P, real quick, so I'll be right back.
It's tea time!
Okay, hi, I'm back. Let's see if we can figure this out. The actual cause of death was the neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. Let's see. We already submitted this once, and it didn't work. We submitted the autopsy report, it didn't work. We couldn't... There was an earlier segment about the birdcage. I have an Ace Attorney question. Do y'all have your floats? Wait, why is that an Ace Attorney question? Yeah, she said she opened the cage and she grabbed the screwdriver with 2 hands and she plunged it into his chest. I tried using the screwdriver against her previous testimony because I thought maybe it's too small for her to grasp with 2 hands. But that didn't work. The actual cause of death was the neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. There's no way I could use this, right?
Objection!
Nope.
Hold it!
It's the diva time. Did you get her? I don't think there's anything we need to ask her to change it. It's,
Hold it!
quite sure of that. It was a result of a broken neck. Yes, as a professional, that was apparent. Neck trauma. Asmund suffered from a 30-foot fall. Honestly, I'm kind of out of ideas. I don't know if it's the correct statement that I'm even refuting. And now I'm like second guessing everything. Let me think. Can't be the bird cage, right? That's not even the one that he fell in. That's the other one, I think. Wait. Birdcage!
Objection!
Nope, I'm wrong. Fuck! I'm gonna flub this again. It has to be this statement. But nothing I have.
We know the murder weapon is the shot put ball.
So,
Hold it!
you're saying the secret to the mystery is somewhere in her flashback? There's like barely even a flashback. I have no idea what I'm missing. Am I on the right statement? Or does it have to be the other one? Because I don't really think I can refute either. Any more than I've already tried, at least. I want to know which one it is, yeah. Which... Do I need to change it or not? Wow. Okay.
Rotate the image 180 degrees.
Okay, so the new statement is, I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest.
Objection!
This was it? I've got a nasty feeling
Congratulations! Super job!
that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth. What on earth is the matter, Counsel? Have you lost your tongue? I apologize, my lord. Dr. Scythe, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation. Out with it, my learned friend. He's not saying Nipponese friend anymore. There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph. Which shows the victim is the bird in the birdcage following the events that led to his death. Oh god, oh god, oh god, I think I know where this is going. The court has already examined the photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection!
Is this the gunshot wound from the guy in the grave? Yes, we already considered it, that's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in the photograph would we see the alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement?
Take that!
Look closely at the blood stain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet. And why is that significant, Counsel? If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Ah, of course! No, that's not what happened! Exactly, my lord. Dr. Scythe made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Harebrain's screwdriver and stabbed him was after the grand deception was in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below stage out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after a 30-foot drop. And if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. That is definitely a stretch. And for it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. So this... Oh god. What if it's the body of the guy that was standing up from the grave, gets shot, blood drips down, they preserve the body because she's a forensic person. That's what I think's happening. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. Oh. That's not... In short, Dr. Scythe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. Knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Scythe. Claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. Claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie, because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer. If that is the case, what is it, man?
Into the truth.
Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Scythe's story is shown to be a lie by the
Allow me to
contradiction
cut
in
through
her
those
testimony?
words.
I don't know if it's the coercion or the stabbing. It's the stabbing. The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have either been sitting or standing upright at the time. As you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would. Which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord. That's impossible. The man was dead, remember? No, that is the misapprehension. So she just fucking killed him. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asmund didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Scythe appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Mr. Odie Asmund's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Scythe. So, consider this. Why would Strongheart order that Dr. Scythe can't be brought to the stand for this trial when he probably knew that she was the killer? We still don't really know what's going on with that, other than corruption. Order, order, order! Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? You hope that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end, before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder. Oh, do shut up. You're so desperate now. You're making all this up, as if I would do something like that. I assure you the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ah, logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean? I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asmund? Asmund was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there is no known connection to Dr. Scythe there. I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched. True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with this crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a different story.
Objection!
No? When you question what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. What? What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once! Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. Was it something in our lab? There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. Is it time? Is it fucking time? It's the Iron Mask. You've lost me. Huh? Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but why the Iron Mask? Well, of all the things I saw yesterday, it left the greatest
Learn
impression.
from losing.
Clearly, you have no idea what you're talking about. Ah! I must have said the wrong thing. Forgive the interruption, Dr. Scythe, but what my colleague meant to say was scalpels. She just fills in the blank. Perhaps that makes a little more sense to you. Ah, of course. You say scalpels? Ah. It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor. You. Come on, out with it. Yeah, she was like, Mr. Naruhodo, sorry, but I'm taking over. It was yesterday when we visited your laboratory. Look at this big, thick book here. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh. What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but, well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. I love a thick invoice. 500 scalpels a month?! At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's account. Asman's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find where it was going would be extremely straightforward. Excuse me. 10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Scythe's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade. Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean... I don't know what happened on the night that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asman in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever. You'll never understand. None of you! What we've had to keep covered up all these long years. What is it? as very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb. The truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out. And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Scythe will escape punishment for crimes. Yeah, it was an antimatter gravity. It was an anti-gravity machine. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth about what happened. 10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate's had over you all these years. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really. It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber. I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it. You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim. Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asmon's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Asmon, did it? Which is where the very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. The condemned convict... The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago, in your account of those events, was all true. And obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened, even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. On Dr. Scythe, to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asmon ended up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye, about the coroner who'd handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise a plan. What a horrid tale. He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him for revenge, and have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer.
You will suffer!
Well... Your actions against those who ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. I mean, let's not forget this dude literally was digging up corpses to sell them. So... He was shady. Shady things happened to him. I kind of just think it's karma. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? He's your favorite side character? Honestly, Rosen? Wait, you're not... Okay, so you're not counting Van Zieks or Sholmes, right? Because out of the trial, like, out of the people that only show up for the trial of their chapter, I would say he's probably my favorite as well. A bunch of shady people getting into a good old battle royale. Oh, I also liked, the reporter from the first chapter in this game. And I liked Giselle. Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis. But you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. We could make it an air balloon. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Lord Van Zieks, what of Dr. Scythe? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. Heaven is now home. With boxes. What's... Oh, those are pillows? 15... Oh my. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. Hit me with pillow boxing. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain... Oh, yes? It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt. This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. Me, this dedicated scientist, this devotee to natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool. Professor. I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research, misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to, despite my lack of talent. Yeah, despite your best efforts, you're not guilty. That's right. And worst of it, in the process I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I. I wouldn't go... no, Professor, that's not true. Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing and his alone. This outcome of his fate, not yours. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way. Van Zieks. And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. Believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams. That's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for their choices. Oh. Thank you, Barrick. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. It is the court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of charges of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections. None from me, my lord. Certainly not. This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever. I love corn. I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Can find his crevice? Oh! Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty. Yay! Court is adjourned! It's over. That was some trial. Well, yeah. I'm gonna finish this dialogue and then we'll do Among Us. I know we're running a little bit late, but we're like almost done. Professor, what a splendid outcome,
We're way behind
isn't it?
schedule.
Oh, it is. Congratulations, Professor Harebrain. Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Susato. I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up, that you realize that you were caught up in a bad situation. Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny. Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so... We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough. Oh dear. Oh, what can I do? How about this? A memento. The paper about my hypothesis is inside. Well, just as a memento then. Thank you. Holmes literally needs the money to eat. I've been wondering, Professor, what are you going to do now? Oh my. Yes, what am I gonna do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the Great Exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if my new inspiration hits me. Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that. Oh. Lord Van Zeeks? What are you doing here? Barrick! Sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snaring down on your prey. You're one of the few true friends I have. Couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense. Sorry, or the defense? Did I just hear that right? I always knew that you had my best interest at heart. Don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been too long since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on. Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you. What? From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets. But no! Hold on a minute, Barrick! What about the Great Exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me! I want to look around! No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea. Okay. I know. People that stay in Britain. People that stay in Britain after going to court are killed by the serial killer who isn't dead.
The enemy!
And is being used by Strongheart. Holy shit. What if it's one of the, like, random jurors from, like, the third trial in the last game? And the reason I say the third trial is because a murder literally happened in the court. It is gonna be time for Among Us soon, but I think I see what's going on here. Typewriter-chan? An icon. She was typing the missives. She could be in... At this point, you never know. Sometimes it's hard to see warmth in those eyes, Barrick. Lord Van Zeeks? What's all this about? A necessary precaution. Yes, I think I understand. You? Well, Iris told me that when you met Lord Van Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked about how Mr. Natsume was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time, and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well. Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas. Those in the Reaper's sights meet their end days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up till now. Okay, so they're literally just... I thought I was big-braining something that would later get revealed. They are literally talking about it. But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were completely innocent. Is that why Gina's getting transferred? True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. But Barrick! Like the mustached Nipponese, this man should leave this country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once. Right. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness. Was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zeeks? Where people think of him as the Reaper. This man seems absolutely merciless, and yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being. Ah, yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you. No. Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust has settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes? I thought you'd gone too. We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? Want to talk with me? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. So, is the Van Zeeks conversation a part of this chapter, guys? Real quick, because we are dipping, like, I'm 15 minutes late. Okay, we're saving it for next stream, then. Sorry. Gotta stick to the schedule, because certain people stay up for it. No, certain... It's brief? Okay, if it's fast, I'll do it. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. Okay. As long as... 10 minutes? The Enigma, Baron Van Zeeks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes then. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. Let me just post a message so people know.
We're way behind schedule.
Okay. Give me the tea. So, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless
It's
scientist
tea time!
from a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my anonymous animosity towards you Nipponese comes from. Yes. Yes. Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now I think differently. Clearly know our ways. So I would guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. See, this is why I think the professor could be a Japanese person. Will you tell me what happened, please? Professor, I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest. He took your brother's life. Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zeeks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain, their homeland, the Empire of Japan. Oh! It was 16 years ago. Then one of them could have been my father! Worse, I remember Dr. Mikotoba well. I had no idea. But Susato B had an idea. I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to 3 visiting Nipponese. So, you've actually met my father. He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very great impression on me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims, and in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. So sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway, so he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me, personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. Plain sight? Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was forged, I think. Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions, which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war. What? A war? Between Britain and Japan? Okay, so that guarantees he is Japanese. But that would mean, oh my, you mean to say the professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time.
Oh my god.
Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes.
I'm so ready.
That's been hidden this past decade.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
It's not Mikotoba. He has Kenshin hair.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before.
Oh. We've never seen this guy.
Was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face.
Oh shit.
I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Oh no.
Oh! Why are you dressed like Giselle?
Father. What? Father?
Kazuma.
You've got a daddy to find.
My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned.
Oh my goodness.
He stood there before me. Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
We omitted a word there, but sure.
Kazuma-sama!
Oh, thank you.
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
How do you know?
It was an honor.
Yes, in time.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma. I owe you thanks, too. For taking good care of that in my absence. Oh. Karuma, the great blade of the Asogi clan, passed down through the generations.
Well, you have to trade swords, though.
When we left Japan,
Because you have one.
this
I saw it.
sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword. And I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
Oh my.
I've made it. At last. Father.
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it, but I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Don't do it, Kazuma. Well.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke. We have much to talk about.
Oh,
But
yes.
now is not the time.
It's a time for penance.
I'll be seeing you.
Oh, jeez.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
So he's the living after image of a man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes, Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling that there was something there, some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zeek's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia, too? Man was apprehended, even executed. His legacy won't just die, that's a sad truth. Okay, okay. So let's save and move on to Among Us, because we are way behind schedule.
We're way behind schedule.
We will be doing more Ace Attorney tomorrow night, so we'll just pick it up then. The rest of the night, though, I apologize if people are here for Among Us. I gotta get that going. Yeah. We'll just finish the rest of Chapter 3, and then on to Chapter 4 tomorrow, so it'll be fine. It'll be A-OK. Alright, I need to kind of hustle here, guys.